4294. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the PM Show. This plays on the weekend, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. We do the show live on Wednesdays at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 Eastern, and then plays throughout the weekend. Barry Farber comes on after us, and the great Fred Dreyer normally is here. He is on assignment. I believe he did a TV show, and he may be doing some more shooting and things for that, and we're honored to have with us today Sweet Dick Whittington is here. And you made a reference, Sweet Dick Whittington, great radio personality of all time in the Radio Hall of Fame, and we should mention that you said Piers Morgan is he there's a story about him doing telling somebody from the radio news or the radio news of the world.
I just happened to look at my computer screen, and the story is that Piers Morgan 10 years ago had taught a certain reporter at that time for the News of the World, the Murdoch newspaper over in London, which is no longer in existence, taught him how to hack into the phone and thereby gain access to celebrities, politicians, etc. That's the story.
So here's the deal. You and I used to, you especially, did clever phone calls. Remember during the, when you do phone calls and do setup calls, you had to, there was a time there where you had to tell people that they were being recorded, so it lost some of the humor. Nowadays, I think if you do a radio show, you just hack into a call. Isn't that what you do now?
That's about it.
That's it.
That's it. You can get away with anything. I started that in San Francisco at KSFO. I did it. I think it was the first to do that with comedy. Now, Joe Pine, along with a few others, were doing one-way radio. In other words, what would happen would I'll get off this in a second. But
no, I like this. This is good stuff.
What Joe would do, and then I learned from him. He would take calls and then repeat back what the listener was saying. And he would go back and forth. Actually, he was having a debate with himself. It sounded that way. But I did it, hopefully comedically, until I figured out a way where I could turn up the volume on the microphone. Then I would hold the phone.
This is great.
The sound was terrible. But we got the other voice on the other end of the phone, and I could do two-way. But at that time, you didn't have to identify yourself as much. I'll tell you who ruined that for me, Don Imus. Imus was in a bad period in his life. I won't go through all of that, but he got on one morning and didn't inform somebody, and so this person sued, and then the FCC came out and said, no more phone calls like this. You must first identify yourself. So the way I got around that was I wouldn't call local. I would call either national or else overseas. But I did a lot of those calls. The Queen Elizabeth call. That was a wonderful call. I was very proud of that.
You actually got through to Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, I really did. It was just most amazing thing in the time. The late Francis Gary Powers, remember he was the U-2 pilot, was shot down in 1960,
and was your traffic, and he became your traffic reporter.
Yeah,
then,
he
didn't
did. And so we were having, for some reason, back in early 70s, we were having a grain shortage, and therefore bread supplies were not that readily available. So I called Russia and got a hold of what would be the equivalent of our Secretary of Agriculture, and tried to trade Francis Gary Powers back to the Russians for a couple of loaves of bread.
That's great. That's great. That's good.
To this day, the Russians have no sense of humor.
That's very true. And that was really the beginnings of they didn't have the phone equipment. You would actually hold the phone up to the microphone.
Up to the microphone, yeah.
Great stuff. And you did that at KSFO in San Francisco?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so you were there in San Francisco. You were in Oakland at KROW, and you were at KLAC in Los Angeles, KGIL for so many years, KABC, KFI, the great legendary KIV radio station.
Yeah, I had an all-night show. I mean, the career was certainly in steep decline, as you'll remember.
Would you stop? Would you just
it was. Oh, no. You don't kid yourself about that. I had great highs, but the lows were the lows, and I needed the money. I was going through a divorce and bad stock market advice and stuff like that. But that all-night show, nobody ever heard it at KIEV, but I used to go out in the in the car, I'll stop talking about myself when I find myself.
That's okay. We got to stick around. You can be on Robert Conrad's show tomorrow and talk about yourself with him.
I could be interviewed by Bob?
That's exactly right.
Holy man.
And here's the thing. He was a boxer, and you were a boxer, so you guys could get some kind of reality radio show in there.
Well, I was a real one, though.
He was too. He was was he 36-5-1 or something? I forget what his record was.
As an amateur.
As an amateur, yeah.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was boxing in an early age. He got his mom took him there to get him. I don't want to repeat his stories because you'll hear them all again tomorrow. Anyway, so yeah, you were at all these stations in Los Angeles and really crafting. Not so much playing music. You weren't known as maybe the disc jockey when I knew you. Did you play more music early on in your career?
No, not really. I never did. And that's why I was fired so many times. But you look back as you will, and you'd better soon. You look back and you think, I don't think I would have changed much. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes, but I also had some wonderful moments, and I was very grateful that I could do radio. I was much better on radio, I thought, than television. I had a lot of opportunities, and I did a lot of stuff, but I couldn't bring me to television the way I did on radio. It's just I don't know why. Maybe it's my own insecurity.
Well, you probably do know why. I mean, isn't radio more of a one-on-one kind of medium?
Yeah, that, and I'm very shy. I'm not.
You are shy. I know you are.
I'm not shy here with you. But I've always been very shy. I've always been very insecure, and I've never really believed anything I've said or done, and I'm sure that affected me. I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm looking for sympathy. So
one of the great lines you gave me, I remember it to this day, when talking about Elvis and all the people that became popular. When you start believing it, when you start believing you're Elvis, and you start believing you're so and so, that's when it's all over.
Oh yeah, and I did, and I absolutely did. And of course,
we'll be right back. You did not. We'll have more.